Hello, Balboa Scholars, and welcome back to another science lesson. I am super excited to continue working with all of you on our butterfly unit. On Tuesday, we began to talk about caterpillars. We talked about what they look like, their body parts, their diet, and a lot of other interesting facts about caterpillars. What I want you to do is take that information that you remember and apply it to today's new lesson. Today's focus is the butterfly life cycle. As you can tell, we are going to be talking about the different stages and how a caterpillar transforms into a beautiful butterfly. Before we begin, boys and girls, I would like to welcome you back to in-person learning. For those of you who have returned to campus starting yesterday, welcome back to Balboa. I am new to Balboa, so it's been so exciting to see the faces of Balboa scholars in person. And for those of you who are continuing to learn on Zoom with your teacher and your classmates, I hope you have a great rest of your year. I know you will do fantastic. Let's begin our lesson. We always start with our objective, and an objective, we talked about this last time, is our goal. What do we want to know? What do we want to accomplish by the end of the lesson? So let's read together. I can name and describe the stages of the butterfly life cycle. What are we going to be thinking about as we go through this lesson? What's our guiding question? How does a caterpillar turn into a butterfly? So I want you to think about that as we go through our slides. Boys and girls, we're going to begin with a video, so let's go ahead and watch. All right, boys and girls, what did we see? Well, we just watched a time lapse. A time lapse is a very fast video, and it showed us the changes from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Pretty amazing, huh? Let's begin. The butterfly develops through a process called, and you probably learned this word throughout this week's lessons with your teacher. Let's say it together. Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. Can you say it 5 times fast? Metamorphosis, 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 metamorphosis. It's a tongue twister. This is a Greek word that actually means transformation or change in shape. So the word metamorphosis comes from Greek, the Greek language, and it means transformation or change. Well, we are talking about the change of the caterpillar, the change in the butterfly. How does it transform into a different stage? There are 4 stages. How many stages? Show me with your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. In the metamorphosis of butterflies, we begin with the tiny little egg. An egg. We move from an egg to a caterpillar or a larva. Both of those have the same meaning. You can use either one. From a caterpillar, we move to a pupa or chrysalis. This is the form right here, number 3. And the last stage in the butterfly life cycle is an adult. This is an adult butterfly. As we talk about the life cycle, I want you to also think, why do you think this goes in a circle? Why are there arrows? Why does it go in a circle? Can it start again? How does it start again? Think about that. Let's go into each stage in detail. We're going to begin with the egg. What is the egg? Eggs are laid on milkweed plants by the adult female butterfly. These plants will then become the food for the hatching caterpillars. Earlier on Tuesday, we talked about how caterpillars eat a lot. Do they eat hamburgers, hot dogs, Taco Bell, In-N-Out? No, they are herbivores. They feed on plants, right? So these plants, these milkweed plants, will become the food for the hatching caterpillars. The eggs can be laid from spring, summer, or fall. Butterfly eggs can be very, 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 very tiny. The next stage is the caterpillar, and this is the feeding stage. This is one of the most important parts in the life cycle because the caterpillar is eating so much, it's gaining the nutrients that it needs in order to move on to its next stage in the life cycle. We call this the caterpillar or the larva. This is also called a caterpillar if the insect is a butterfly. The job of the caterpillar is to eat and eat and eat and eat. As the caterpillar grows, it splits its skin and it sheds about 4 or 5 times. That's amazing. Third stage, we have the pupa or the transition stage. This stage is when it's getting ready to transform into the last and final phase. When the caterpillar is full grown and stops eating, it gained all its nutrients, it becomes a pupa. The pupa of butterflies is also called a chrysalis. It may look like nothing is going on inside, but big changes are happening. These changes happening include the legs, the wings, the eyes, and other parts of the adult butterfly. Finally, adult butterfly. This stage is what most people think of when they think of butterflies. They look very different from the larva. The caterpillar has few tiny eyes, short legs, and very small antennas. But the adult butterflies have long legs, long antennas, and they can also fly by using their large and colorful wings. So, we went over the 4 stages of the butterfly life cycle, and we talked about how the word metamorphosis means a transformation. We went from caterpillar to butterfly in different stages, and different events happen between those stages. All right, you can see me nice and large because I want to go over your activity and I want you to be able to see it clearly. Boys and girls, this is where you will need your paper plate. Your teacher has given you a paper plate in your last supply pickup, and you will need that for today's lesson. You will also need, well, if you don't have them at home, you can just draw it. But I like to use some props that I had at home in order to create this butterfly life cycle on a plate. So you will need some pastas. I have this one. I have this one. I have this one as well. And finally, I have, it's very, very tiny, but I do have some grains of rice. They're hard to hold. I do have some grains of rice, or you could use an almond. Again, if you don't have these materials, you can just draw these stages of the butterfly life cycle on your paper plate. We're going to begin together. You can watch this, you can follow along if you need to pause it as well. And then at the end, you will post a picture of your completed plate for your teacher to see on Seesaw. All right, my friends. So I have started by labeling my plate. I know it's backwards on the camera, but I titled it Butterfly Life Cycle right in the middle of my paper using a Sharpie or a marker. And I wrote my name, Miss Faraj. I want you to write your name on the paper plate as well. Can somebody help me by answering this question? What is the first life cycle? What is the first step of the life cycle? If you said egg, you are correct. So I'm going to write a number 1 on my plate and write egg. Unfortunately, boys and girls, my document camera is in my classroom. I am at home right now, so it would be more clear if I used my document camera, but for now I'm using my computer and I know it's backward. I am so sorry, but the first one is egg. And I'm going to look at my props. Again, if you don't have these materials, you can draw it. But I'm going to use either grains of rice or my almond to represent an egg. So you can either glue it there or just leave it there when you want to take your picture. And that is going to represent your egg. Well, what's the next stage of the life cycle? After egg comes larva or caterpillar. So I drew my arrow to show that this is the next stage, and I wrote larva and caterpillar. If you have a pasta that looks like this is a perfect representation of your caterpillar. So again, if you have that, wonderful. If you don't, you can draw it or be creative. You might have some other materials that you can use in the classroom. Stage number 3 comes pupa or chrysalis. So again, I drew my arrow, pupa or chrysalis. And I'm looking at my pasta to see which ones are in the shape of a pupa or a chrysalis. And I found the one. And I'm going to use this one. Boys and girls, I will post a picture on Seesaw of my completed paper plate so you can reference to that as well. And our last and final stage is the adult beautiful butterfly. So I have titled stage number 4, adult butterfly. Boys and girls, we also want to make sure that we connect 4 to 1 because this cycle happens and it goes again and again and again. And for my adult butterfly, I am using this kind of pasta right here. I will hold it for you to see. Looks like a butterfly. Again, if you don't have these materials, you can draw or be creative. All right, scholars, let's go over your independent work. Like I talked about earlier, your job is to complete your paper plate and post a picture of it for your teacher to see on Seesaw. You may use the pasta, the rice, or any materials you have at home. You may also draw the stages. I will post a picture of my completed work on Seesaw so you can see my example. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I know I did. Hope you learned the 4 stages of the butterfly life cycle and that you can recite them to somebody like your family, your friends. Let them know that you know what happens in each stage of the life cycle and why are they important. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great rest of your night.